Welcome to the Get Wisdom podcast. And hey, if you're maybe looking for a new way to do life or figuring out how to get unstuck somewhere, perhaps just need a fresh perspective on your current situation, well, we can definitely assist with all of that. You can check us out over at www.getwisdom.cc.
I'm Miranda.
And I'm Jay.
And today we're going to be taking you through a really insightful white paper by Brent Ziemann. Our goal, as always, is to pull out some actionable insights, things you can actually use right away.
That's right. Today we are diving into Ziemann's work, Conscious Coaching and the Reclamation of Authentic Self. It really centers on this powerful idea of moving from, let's say, unconscious patterns to conscious creation. So our mission here is to extract those key principles: transformation, reprogramming identity, and using language consciously.
Yeah, this deep dive, it really brings together core concepts like self-awareness and authentic communication, and it shows how they can be used strategically, often with methods like Neuro-Linguistic Programming or NLP, to guide someone back to their core truth.
Okay, let's unpack this central idea first, the human transition, as Ziemann calls it. He points out that so many of us, and maybe this sounds familiar to you listening, we initially go after external achievements. Chasing the visible stuff, degrees, professional status, financial security, kind of following the map society gives us.
Right. And this is where the paper offers, I think, its first really crucial insight. What's fascinating is that almost universal moment of realization. When you get those things, and they often fail to satisfy that deep internal need for genuine meaning, the transition, the real shift, it starts when you realize the external world is basically just reflecting your internal state.
That's a huge shift, because normally when people feel unhappy, they look outside, right,
Yeah.
for a new strategy, a new job, different relationship, move cities.
Exactly. But the paper argues that strategy, it's kind of useless if the underlying awareness hasn't changed first. Yeah, the core argument is that real transformation, it doesn't come from a better external plan. It comes from a radical shift in internal awareness. This shift needs what the paper calls an awakening, like a catalytic moment where you see the difference between living life by default, run by old programming, and living intentionally. You have to stop just reacting and actually start choosing.
Okay, that leads perfectly into a key question the paper tackles. What's the role of a conscious coach in making this happen? And crucially, how is this different from, say, traditional therapy? That distinction can be pretty confusing for people looking for support.
It's a really important question, and the paper draws a very clear line. It frames the difference mainly by focus. Conscious coaching, it's definitely not about giving advice or diagnosing problems. Its whole purpose is facilitating awareness. The coach helps you uncover your own limiting beliefs and reconnect with your authentic potential, that inherent capability you already have.
Right, so if we were to map it out, traditional therapy often focuses on the past. Understanding roots, working through pathology, getting a clinical diagnosis. It's about healing past wounds.
Precisely. Whereas conscious coaching, it's purely developmental. It's goal-directed. It focuses on your present potential and creating the future you want. It's about building forward from who you are now, ideally from a healed state. And the method mentioned for doing this is key: Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP.
We hear that term, NLP, thrown around a lot. But for someone listening who needs practical knowledge, how does the paper describe its function? Like, how does it actually work?
Think of it as the mechanics of transformation. NLP works on the idea that our internal language patterns, the linguistics we use, create our neurological maps of reality, how we see the world. And these internal maps dictate our behavior. So NLP gives you the tools, the methodology to identify those maps, interrupt the unhelpful ones, and then replace the disempowering patterns. You're consciously editing your own map, basically.
Yeah.
It lets us reverse engineer our reactions.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, this idea of reverse engineering our beliefs. The paper says any framework for transformation has to start with that ancient idea, know thyself. But where do these limiting beliefs, these incorrect maps, actually come from in the first place?
Yeah, the paper is quite clear on this. The vast majority are inherited. They get absorbed passively from family, culture, education, long before we can even question them consciously. Think about the conditioning around, say, work ethic or money or what self-worth means. You might subconsciously believe rest equals laziness just because you heard it growing up, right? That's inherited programming. It's not necessarily your truth.
Wow. Okay, so if we're running on inherited software, how do we even begin to tell the difference between our true self and that old programming?
Well, that's kind of the whole point of this deep work, isn't it? The paper suggests there's this central question operating underneath almost everything we do, a universal question. Am I enough? Ziemann argues this drives nearly all our striving, our fears, our performance anxiety.
That simplifies so much. The chase for prestige, the fear of failing. It all sounds like trying to finally answer that one question with a solid yes.
Exactly. And the actionable insight here is really powerful because it gives us the tool for separation. Transformation kicks off when you pause, really pause, and ask, whose voice is actually asking this question right now?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like your inner child reacting to some old tape? Or is it your conscious adult self? Just by isolating that internal voice, often an inherited one, you can start to consciously rewrite the belief. The paper really stresses that language is both the mirror reflecting your inner state and the tool you use to make the changes.
Which is why the practical tools are so vital. Knowing what needs changing is awareness, sure, but how you actually implement that change, that's what shifts behavior. So let's talk about those practical tools mentioned in the paper, tools for reclaiming authorship of our perception.
Yeah, one of the most effective ones detailed is the anchoring exercise for emotional reset. It comes straight from NLP principles. It's really about physicalizing a resourceful state, making it tangible.
Yeah. Okay, walk us through that. How would someone listening actually do anchoring today?
Okay. First, you vividly recall a positive, resourceful experience, a time you felt really confident or joyful or maybe powerful. You need to be fully immersed using all your senses. Second, right at the peak of that positive feeling, you create a specific physical anchor, a unique touch like pressing your thumb and forefinger together, or maybe squeezing your wrist, something distinct.
And repetition is important here, I assume.
Absolutely vital. You repeat this pairing, firing up the positive state and engaging the physical anchor daily. Over time, your nervous system creates a strong link between that specific touch, the anchor, and that powerful emotional state, the goal. So when you're suddenly under stress or feeling fear or just disempowered, you can use that physical anchor to instantly short-circuit the negative state and bring back the resourceful feeling. It's a real mechanism for state management, moving you from just reacting to having a conscious relationship with your experience.
That's really tangible, something repeatable, and it directly addresses that problem of defaulting back to old, unhelpful programming. Moving beyond just the tools, though, the paper also dives into authenticity and vulnerability, which is, well, pretty fascinating.
It's a critical piece, yeah, a philosophical shift, almost. The paper defines authenticity pretty clearly. Alignment between your inner thoughts, your spoken words, and your outward actions. Simple, but not easy. But it really flips the script on vulnerability.
Yeah, because most of us are taught to see vulnerability as weakness, right? Like exposing a flaw or opening yourself up to attack.
Correct. But the paper asserts vulnerability as not weakness. It defines it as a mature form of strength. It's the radical willingness to be seen as you are without putting up shields or performing. So authenticity isn't a fixed trait you either have or don't. It's something you have to consistently practice. It's maintained, not perfected.
I see the connection now. If the goal is self-alignment, you have to be willing to drop the performance, the act you put on to hide those inherited beliefs we talked about earlier.
Exactly right. And the paper mentions a few other foundational practices that support this, alongside anchoring. Things like grounding visualizations just to get present, consciously reframing thoughts, finding the lesson instead of just reacting. Even mirror inquiry, literally asking your reflection questions about self-perception. It sounds simple, but it can be powerful. These all work together towards that goal, transitioning from being purely reactive to having a conscious relationship with your experiences. And if we connect the self-alignment idea to the bigger picture, the paper talks about relational intelligence. This principle suggests that every single relationship you have in your life, it mirrors your internal relationship with yourself.
Wow. So that implies you can't really fix external conflicts with partners, colleagues, family until you've addressed the internal conflict first.
That's the core idea. If your internal dialogue is harsh or critical or full of blame, you'll unconsciously attract or even create relationships that reflect that dynamic. So to improve your external relationships, to find that genuine connection we all crave, you have to radically improve the internal conversation first.
That really sheds light on the modern paradox of loneliness, doesn't it? We're hyper-connected technologically, social media everywhere, yet so many people report feeling profoundly isolated.
I think so. Because digital life often pushes performance over actual presence, Authenticity gets masked by curated images, constant comparison. Genuine connection needs that strength of vulnerability, that presence of alignment. Digital performance often distracts from that. Authenticity is what actually rebuilds connection.
Looking back at the sort of transformational language the paper uses, One finding that really struck me was that transformation is often about subtracting false beliefs, not just adding new knowledge or piling on more techniques. It suggests the best gift we can give others is actually doing our own self-work.
And that loops right back to relational intelligence, doesn't it? By healing your internal world, the mirror changes. Every external interaction starts to shift automatically. Which brings us nicely to the final core insights listed in the paper. These really unify the whole framework.
First, and maybe the most fundamental, awareness has to come before transformation. You need to actually see the pattern before you can change it effectively.
Second, the law of attraction gets a slight reframe. You attract not what you consciously want, but what you fundamentally are. Your internal state is the magnet.
Third point, every challenge is actually an invitation to evolve. There are no real mistakes in life, only lessons waiting for us to recognize and integrate them.
And finally, perhaps the most liberating one, the ultimate aim of modern conscious coaching isn't to fix people, it's to remind them they were never actually broken to begin with. This really integrates the practical tools like NLP with that deeper philosophical understanding. The complete self is already there, just sort of hidden under layers of inherited programming. So yeah, the essence of conscious coaching, drawing from Brent Ziemann's paper, it really boils down to one core statement. You are enough. Every conversation, every technique, every framework discussed, it all exists just to guide the individual back to that fundamental truth. Transformation doesn't happen when we gain more stuff. It starts when we let go of everything false that's obscuring the complete self that was always present.
That's powerful. Okay, so for the final provocative thought we'd like to leave you with, based on everything we've discussed today, maybe take a moment to identify just one inherited limiting belief you might be carrying. Could be about money, or love, success, your capabilities, whatever resonates. And just begin to reverse engineer it today. Start simply by asking, whose voice is this, really? And then consciously choose the language you want to use to rewrite that narrative, starting now. If you want to learn more about the principles discussed in this white paper or connect directly, you can contact Brent Ziemann at 972-301-2878. Or you can email him at getwisdomprinciple@gmail.com.
And please do check out our sponsors. They're the ones who make these deep dives possible. You can find them at www.getwisdom.cc/sponsors.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate you listening. We will see you tomorrow, right back here on the Get Wisdom podcast.